Thank you, Brian, and good morning, everyone. You notice I've immediately abandoned a traditional approach to greeting an audience by ladies and gentlemen, because I want us all just to be one, to listen, to learn, to talk, and to laugh together through the day. Well, what about labelization? In the past 50 or 60 years, it's become far more prevalent in our society, and it puts all our ducks in a row, doesn't it? We don't really have to think about anything if we already know the label and what the label's supposed to mean to us. Does it help? Well, yes, sometimes labels do. Does it hinder? Often, yes. And does it harm? Definitely, often. What it often does is it prevents us from thinking about, from understanding, and from looking differently at things in our society, in our life, in our world. And so labelization has become so prevalent, but also, I think, in many ways, so detrimental to us. For instance, some things it's good to have a label. It's good to have a label on Highway 97 that says this is a section of the highway that's 100 kilometers per hour. Now, not many people pay attention to that label, unless they see a little white car in the distance. However, it's there. The label I do like is the one that says school zone, 30 kilometers an hour, when we are paying attention and not endangering our children or their teachers or others. And then there's the health bar, the nutrition bar. They're just they're so good to eat. They're so good for us. Are they really? You always read the small print that says this little small package has 33% sugar in it. You could go home, take 2 spoonfuls out of your sugar bowl, wash it down with a glass of water, and save $3 for the same effect almost. And it's not just the sugar, it's the other things in there, like things like palm oil, which the health authorities now tell us is probably the worst thing you could drink, except for Newfoundland Screech. Except I do like Newfoundland Screech. Why do we have a endangered problem of obesity in our society, increasingly with our children and adults? What about diabetes? And they're brought about by the fact that we don't read the small labels on food, which are to a high degree very sugar-oriented these days. And what about another one? Now, this is an improvement. Remember these in the old days? These were cigarette advertisements. This beautiful woman with the wisp of smoke coming out of her mouth, holding a cigarette, to say, you want to be on the in crowd, you want to be one of them, etc. Really join in, get together, have a cigarette. Well, the labelization has improved. Here's Barb Tarbox, dying at 42 of lung cancer brought about by her early onset of smoking and her heavy smoking through her life. She asked that this picture be taken as she lay dying and that it be put on cigarette packages so that it would warn the young people, don't go that route. It's not good for you. And of course, we are all familiar with the labelization of clothing and shoes and purses, etc., where something that may cost $50 to manufacture can be sold for much, much more because it has the Boss label or the Armani label or one of those labels on it. But I won't get into that because what I want to talk about today more is about the labels that we put on people. For instance, the labels that we have given the Aboriginal community in this country since the first white settlers came. They were heathens. They were savages. Their culture was inferior to ours. And that was the persistent message that you got, and it led to people being put into the schools, the residential schools, and all of that. But I'm not going to say much about that, except my great-great-grandfather was brought to this country as an indentured orphan from England, worked on a farm in Ontario, and when his farming days were finished, was allowed to go and became a trader with the Hudson Bay Company. Within a year or two, he got married, and I saw the picture, their wedding picture. He's sitting there in the full bowler outfit and everything, and standing beside him is the most beautiful, beautiful Cree woman in full regalia. I am so proud to have had that as part of my heritage. And he wrote back to his family, to his brother in Ontario, and said, I've married up. I've married up. I've just married the most beautiful, wise woman I've ever met. She is helping us endure the harsh conditions of living on the prairies in those days, both winter and summer, and she's having our children. I am so happy. We still have all of these negative labels that we attach to the Aboriginal community, and I won't go into that because you're going to hear from Chief Louis later today, and he will be more expressive and informative about that. But we must look at abandoning those labels that categorize people unfairly and welcome them as citizens. Their culture is in many ways richer than ours. It's a caring community. They respect their elders, and they care for one another. But let's go on to, I'm going to give you a word, Muslim. If I say that word, what does that bring into your mind? What does that label say to you? Oh, yes, those people that blew down the Twin Tower, that resulted in the Twin Towers falling because they ran airplanes into them. People who are suicide bombers wrapped in bombs and walk into restaurants and bazaars and kill many innocent people. Everywhere there's Muslims in the world, there's conflict. Many of my colleagues at the University of Toronto and at Ryerson were Muslim professors. Many of my students were, and I had many friends there. And I tell you, these are solid Canadian citizens who chose to come here because of the better health care, the opportunities for their children, an opportunity to contribute to a safe, caring society. They are wonderful citizens of this country, and that's how we need to think of them, if we think of them at all. The label Muslim is a religious designation, not something that you use to denigrate them. You know, some laws in Quebec want to take away the hijab, the traditional dress that many of them choose to wear. You know, we used to have uniforms almost like that in the old days, but we adored our nuns. They were contributors to our healthcare, our educational system. We did not criticize them. We didn't pass a law saying you've got to get out of those outfits. No. So it's interesting how our society sometimes overlap. Well, let me move on to crippled. I was so fortunate when I was younger to be the executive director of Camp Easter Seal in Saskatchewan, where over 1,000 children, teenagers, and adults gathered every summer at the camp. And when they came, they were designated as crippled, as retarded, as mongoloid. Now, we have more pleasant names today: disabled, developmentally delayed, and Down syndrome. Those children came with labels. Jimmy came. Jimmy was crippled and wheelchair-bound. He was retarded and partially mongoloid. Second day of the camp, he went to the art class. And at the end of the art class, the art teacher came and got me and said, I have something I want to show you. So she took me out to where Jimmy was. She told me on the way that Jimmy had never painted or drawn anything in his life before. There in front of him was the most beautiful painting I could imagine of the trees that were in front of him from where he sat. And into the trees, you could see one of the campers' cabins. It was beautiful. The next day, his counselor came and said, I got Jimmy up on the parallel bars. They say he's crippled. His legs look fine to me when I gave him a bath or get him ready for bed. At the first day I was there, I watched. He moved his leg like this. And a couple days later, he's shuffling. By the end of the 2 weeks, he was walking the length of the parallel bars 2 or 3 times each day, sometimes twice a day. And he went on. His paintings in 3 years were selling for $100 to $150. He was walking everywhere. He was moving through school very fast. And somebody later told me that he got married and had a normal, quote, normal child. If my counselor, or at least the camp counselor and the artist hadn't said, get rid of that label, it doesn't mean anything. I want to see what Jimmy's potential is. He might still be in a wheelchair, still crippled, still not making the contribution he now makes to the society. We got rid of the label, and we need to. And here's another example, more local. Josh Dubuque. He broke his back skiing and was a paraplegic. Here he is, every day, in his wheelchair, because that's how he has to move around. But here he is, one day, skiing at a rate much faster than I, or probably anybody else in this room could do, because he won a gold medal at the Paralympics. The courage, the determination, everything. He wasn't going to spend his life with a label crippled. He was going to be a gold medal winning Paralympian. And that's the potential that so many people who are labeled in our society as disabled and retarded and all those things, we still use those names sometimes. No, they're individuals with enormous potential. We have to remove the labels and help them achieve that. The same thing is true, of course, of elderly people. Like, we denigrate them too. I heard someone say not long ago, those older people in our society, they're such a drain on our economy, such a drain on everything. Well, wait a minute. How do you think we got this wonderful society that we live in? They created it. And we owe them the best possible end-of-life experience they can have. And they have the capacity to enjoy it. My Aunt Ruby had Alzheimer's. Oh yeah, Alzheimer's people have it. Write them off. They don't even know what they're doing then every day. I went to visit her, and it used to take me 4 or 5 times. Hi, Auntie Ruby, it's Milton, your nephew. Who? Milton. Milton, who? Milton, your nephew. Milton Orris. Milton, you've come to see me, she'd say, and reach up and give me a hug. I said to her, how do you like it here, Auntie Ruby? She said, I love it. I said, oh, really? It was quite a nice home. I said, why do you like it so much? She said, I get up every morning and I meet all these new people. The right attitude. She was enjoying life. She sang and played the piano every day and loved it. Now, who is this? Well, this is Olga. Olga's 94, and you could tell, she's at the age where she'd be in a nursing home, right? Well, let me show you another picture of Olga. Wait for me, Olga. You may have heard of her. The book is Why Does Olga Run? She is the world title holder, the world champion in the Masters Games of, believe it or not, the long jump, of the javelin, and of the races, 100 meters, 400 meters. She can't find other women to race against, so she's racing against the guys now and beating some of them. But what a wonderful life she has. Every adult. I worked in long-term care. I directed a 250-bed home at one point, and what I found was, given the opportunity, older people could just thrive. Get a school band to come and play some of the old-time songs and watch them sing along and get up and dance. They have a lot of life to live, and our labeling of them and our putting them in places where aren't fully receptive to them doesn't work very well. We need to remove those labels. I love the organization in Peru that says, we don't have those words in our language up in the valleys. We say, you're adding years to your life. What a beautiful phrase. So what about, just to finish quickly, how do we decide which labels to believe? Awareness. Are you making an assumption? And that assumption may be wrong. Don't make assumptions. Is it useful? Is it true? Yes, we'll keep it. Is it misleading? Is it damaging? Abandon it. It limits us. It limits our thinking, our understanding, our perception of the world around us when we attach a label to something. And it can hurt others and restrict others and prevent others from being the full people that we want them to be. So question every label that you have come into your mind or that you use. And finally, our own labels. Quite often what we're doing is we're labeling ourselves. How could you be so stupid? That was a really dumb thing to do. You don't deserve all this. You're a terrible father. You're not a very good spouse. Get rid of those labels, because pretty soon you might start believing them. Go and look in the mirror in the morning and say, good morning, it's another wonderful day. I've got so much I can do, I can contribute. I'm going to go out there and help the world be a better place. And I love you. And I'm going to love all the people I meet today and help all of us change this world. We're going to abandon the labels and live each of our lives uniquely, fully, and productively. Thank you.